To what extent is the late monarch responsible for the stain Andrew has left on the monarchy?
Then we cut to much later. Andrew hadn't remarried after his divorce from Fergie. Everybody else was married, so he spent a lot more time with her. And I think that evolved into, well, Andrew's her favourite child. So I question that. But yes, certainly, I think there was a blind spot. She wouldn't be the first parent to have a blind spot with a child. But I also question how much information was available to her, and that's going to be what comes out as investigations proceed.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was reportedly pushed out of Royal Lodge in early February, and he was furious about it. New reports say that when he was told to leave the 30-room property he had lived in for more than 20 years, the whole thing hit hard and fast. He allegedly shouted, "But I'm the Queen's second son. You can't do this to me." And if that account is true, that line says a lot. That is a wild thing to hear in 2026. Not 1996, not 2006, but right now, after everything that has gone down and with his brother now sitting on the throne as king. To really get why this blew up, you have to look at how the eviction happened, because this did not just pop out of nowhere. Welcome to Crown Aura, where the royal drama gets unpacked piece by piece, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Subscribe now and join the channel for all the latest twists, shocking claims, and non-stop royal updates. Royal Lodge had been Andrew's base since 2003. He signed a 75-year lease after the Queen Mother's death and reportedly poured millions into fixing the place up. The property sits inside Windsor Great Park on Crown Estate land, and for years it stood as a major symbol that, scandals or not, he still had 1 foot deep inside the royal circle. But in the first days of February, that whole setup changed fast. Removal activity was reportedly seen at Royal Lodge, and Andrew was said to have been moved out quietly in the middle of the night. He was then relocated to the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, which is privately owned by the king. Sources say he did not want to go, pushed back hard, and leaned on his late mother's status in protest. That alleged line, "I'm the Queen's second son," makes it sound like he still believed rank and birth order could protect him, and that is a serious twist. The situation did not stop with him being moved out for a couple of weeks, not even close.
It's going to happen. I mean, the last thing they want is him to appear in court and say Charles knew all along. And that's their real worry, and that's what they're trying to, as you say, to try and shut down now. I mean, they're happy to throw Andrew under the bus. They're trying to blame the Queen now for everything, but Charles sort of ruled with the Queen for the last few years of her reign.
On February 19th, Andrew was reportedly arrested at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, and the timing made it hit even harder because it happened on his 66th birthday. Reports say he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and questioned for around 11 hours before being released under investigation. Right now, he has not been charged, at least not at this stage, and police are still looking into the case. Searches were reportedly carried out at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk, including Royal Lodge, and that raised the pressure even more. Officers were also said to have asked former protection officers and staff to come forward with anything that could help the investigation. That is where things start to get serious, because once investigators begin pulling in documents, witness accounts, and property searches, the whole picture can get a lot bigger fast. So what happens next? Being released under investigation means the case is still alive and moving, even if slowly. Police can keep reviewing records, speaking with witnesses, and putting together whatever evidence they believe matters. If they decide there is enough there, the file could be passed to prosecutors, who would then decide whether charges should be brought. That kind of process can drag on for weeks or even months, especially if official records or more than one location are involved. If charges are approved, Andrew would have to appear before a magistrate's court like any other suspect. If not, the case could eventually be dropped with no further action. Right now, nobody outside the investigation knows which way this is going, and that uncertainty is hanging over everything. Then there is Royal Lodge, where the symbolism still hits hard.
Andrew lied, bold-faced lies to all of us in that 2019 Newsnight interview. He was probably lying to her too. We can only speculate, we couldn't possibly know. But I think, yes, to some degree, certainly she left an absolute nuclear bomb for Charles to deal with.
As of now, there has been no public word on who might move into the property next. Since it is part of the Crown estate and was recently searched by police, the place is now sitting in a strange kind of limbo, and that makes the whole story look even more intense. Royal Lodge could stay empty for quite a while officials figure out what comes next, and so far, no new tenant has been named. What is clear, though, is that Andrew is no longer living there, and that closes the door on a long, messy, and controversial stretch of royal life. Now he is understood to be staying on the Sandringham estate, and reports say the place he is using there is being privately funded by the king, not covered through Crown estate arrangements. Now the staff angle makes this even more revealing. Reports say staff at Sandringham were told they did not have to serve Andrew if they felt uncomfortable doing it, and that detail speaks volumes. According to sources, several people chose to step back, and that has only added to the sense that he is becoming more and more cut off inside royal circles. The mood around him does not sound normal at all, and that says a lot. This is not only about a damaged public image anymore. This gets down to the people who handle his meals, manage his schedule, and keep his daily life running behind the scenes.
Shock claims of a former royal protection officer in charge of looking after the then Prince Andrew.
In the face of threats and intimidation, Paul Page, a former bodyguard, is brave enough to tell police in the UK about what happened under his watch, and he spoke to 10 News Plus today.
If multiple staff members really refuse to work with him, that points to a major change in how he is seen behind palace walls. After everything that has reportedly surfaced over the years about his conduct in private, that kind of reaction does not exactly come out of nowhere. So what has the king actually said about all this? Buckingham Palace released a statement from King Charles on the day of the arrest, and the tone was serious from the jump. He said he had learned of the news with the deepest concern, and that what comes next would be handled through the full, fair, and proper process by the appropriate authorities. He also said the family's full and wholehearted support and cooperation would be given to the investigation, and then came the line that really stood out. The law must take its course. That statement was short, tightly controlled, and very firm. There was no emotional defense, no hint that Andrew was being treated unfairly, and no effort to soften the moment. It was just a clear message that the legal process would move forward without interference, and that is what made it hit so hard. Charles also made it clear he would not comment further, which only added to the cold and official feel of it all. William and Catherine have not released separate statements, but reports say they are aligned with the king's position and backing that same approach. Now look at Sarah Ferguson and the daughters, because people have been watching them closely too. Sarah was reportedly abroad around the time of the arrest, with reports placing her on a ski trip in Europe in recent weeks. She has not made a public statement about the arrest, even though she and Andrew have remained closely linked for years despite their 1996 divorce. She had been staying at Royal Lodge with him for extended periods, but with him now out of that property, that arrangement appears to be finished too. As for Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, neither has spoken publicly about their father's arrest. Reports say they have stayed in private contact with him, while putting most of their focus on protecting their own children and keeping a low profile during all this noise. Beatrice has 2 daughters, and Eugenie has 2 sons, so sources describe both women as trying to deal with the situation in private and stay clear of the public chaos. Some reports even claim they were approached about interviews and tell-all deals, which they were allegedly considering quietly for the future, and that detail only adds more tension to an already heavy situation. There were also reported sightings of family members abroad in the days leading up to the arrest, including trips to Florida and a ski resort in Switzerland.
The problem is that they will argue legal technicalities, so that he, for example, wasn't a public official. He was just a member of the royal family doing a public job. And I think also they're going to, this is a trip they often use, the police investigation will take so long, and meanwhile, of course, everything will be sub judice, so we don't want you reporting on it. And this thing will take years and years.
Even with all that attention, neither princess made any public appearance tied directly to the arrest itself, and that silence only made people watch even harder. Another twist getting people talking is the reported discussion inside government circles about whether Andrew could be removed from the line of succession. That would not be a simple move at all, because it would need legislation and formal approval, so nothing about it would happen fast. Still, the fact that this idea is even being talked about shows just how serious this moment has become, not only on a personal level but politically too. So when you put it all together, the picture looks intense. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was reportedly pushed out of Royal Lodge in early February and allegedly shouted, "I'm the Queen's second son. You can't do this to me." Then, only days later, he was reportedly arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and later released under investigation. Police searches have also reportedly taken place at properties linked to him, while the king has made it clear that the law must take its course. And right now, Royal Lodge still has no confirmed new resident, which leaves that whole chapter hanging in the air. What happens now could matter just as much as everything that already happened. The next phase is not about royal titles, old privileges, or palace image. It is about pressure, public scrutiny, and whether the people around this story can hold their ground while official questions continue hanging in the air. For Andrew, the biggest problem is that the damage does not stop when the headlines slow down. Even without daily updates, the shadow of controversy can keep following him through every move, every appearance, and every reported decision behind the scenes.
It's a crisis. There is no question, as you rightly point out. It hasn't survived all of those elements. But I think when we look at the Epstein picture as a whole, Andrew so far is, other than Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in prison where she belongs to be, Mandelson's been investigated, his house has been raided, but Andrew's kind of the only one we're talking about. And the king has done everything in his power to mitigate the crisis. He stripped those titles.
In situations like this, silence can look strategic, but it can also make the tension feel even heavier. For the monarchy, this is another brutal test of credibility and control. The palace has to protect the institution without looking like it is protecting the individual, and that is a very narrow line to walk. Every statement, every absence, and every quiet move will be picked apart in public. Right now, one thing is clear above everything else. This story is no longer just about private fallout. It is about public consequences, and that pressure is not going away anytime soon. If you want, I can also make Part 6 more scandal-heavy, more legal-focused, or more focused on the royal family reaction. And that is where the real pressure starts building even more. Because once a royal scandal moves beyond headlines and into questions about trust, status, and long-term fallout, the whole atmosphere changes fast. This is no longer just gossip flying around in the background. This is the kind of situation that can leave a stain for years. The biggest issue now is not only what has already been reported, but how every royal connection around Andrew could be affected going forward. People watch who stands near him, who stays silent, who keeps distance, and who looks uncomfortable. And all of that starts sending its own message without anybody even saying a word. That is how public fallout turns into private isolation, and it can get cold real quick. At the same time, the palace has every reason to stay guarded and calculated. One wrong move could spark even more backlash, and one soft-looking decision could open the door to fresh criticism. So the silence, the distance, and the careful wording are not random. They are part of a bigger survival play. What makes this hit so hard is that the title may still exist, but the protection around it looks weaker than ever, and that is a serious shift. What makes this whole mess even louder is that Royal Lodge is not just some random house. It carries image, status, and history, and losing it sends a brutal message. When somebody is moved out of a place that once looked like a shield of power, people notice fast, and they start asking what changed behind the scenes. That is why this moment feels bigger than one address or one family dispute. It looks like a clear sign that old royal protection does not hit the same way anymore. The image of security, privilege, and quiet cover has taken a serious blow, and that is exactly why this story keeps pulling so much attention. Then you add the silence from key figures, the reports of distance, and the uncertainty around what comes next. and the whole thing starts to feel even more tense. Every quiet move now looks loaded, every missing comment gets noticed, and every reported detail adds another layer to the pressure. At this point, the real shock is not that people are talking. It is that the fallout seems far from over, and the weight of it is still hanging over everything. And now comes the part that really stings, because stories like this do not fade just because the gates close and the cameras move on. The deeper issue is the lasting damage, the kind that keeps showing up in reputation, relationships, and the way people react behind closed doors when the spotlight is gone. For years, royal status could make situations look untouchable from the outside, but now that image looks badly shaken, and that shift is impossible to ignore. Once the public starts seeing distance, silence, and visible consequences, it becomes much harder to sell the idea that everything is still business as usual. That is also why every next step matters so much.
Yes, I mean, it's not actually when the picture appeared. When the picture appeared, Andrew tried to get PR companies to discredit Virginia Giuffre. He claimed publicly he didn't even remember her or know her, but actually he was working with Ghislaine behind the scenes. But
whether it is legal developments, family positioning, or quiet palace decisions, each move can add even more weight to the story. In a case like this, even doing nothing can become a headline, and that is when the pressure starts living in every corner of the narrative. Right now, the biggest takeaway is simple. The title may remain, but the old sense of control looks like it is slipping, and that changes everything. Staff at Sandringham have reportedly been given the choice not to serve him, and some are said to have stepped back. Sarah Ferguson has reportedly been abroad, while his daughters are believed to be keeping their focus on their families and staying out of the spotlight. Put all together, it has been a stunning run of events, and the pressure around him looks massive from every angle. If he really did say those words during the move out of Royal Lodge, then it paints a picture of somebody shocked that his old status might not carry the same power anymore. Maybe he truly believed his birth position would still protect him, or maybe it was just an angry reaction from a man watching his world change fast overnight. What do you think really happened here? Drop your view in the comments. And for more updates as this story develops, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can join the conversation. Stay locked in, because this story is still unfolding and every new twist could change the picture again.